Hello guys, I wanted to talk with you tonight about Julian Assange and some of the recent events that have been going on around him, but more specifically, why the U.S. even has the ability to prosecute him at all if he's extradited to the United States, or at least I have a pretty strong theory. So I'll get into that in a moment. But first of all, you've got Julian Assange, of course, the whistleblower who 10 years ago, around about a decade ago, in 2010, he he received documents from Chelsea Manning, then Bradley Manning, who worked for the U.S. military and had footage and files, a whole lot of documents, and even video footage that was then taken and published on WikiLeaks. And since then, Julian Assange has been under threat, and the U.S. government has been trying to prosecute him for a decade. And it's strange because Julian Assange isn't even a U.S. citizen. He's from Australia. But just about a month ago, the United Kingdom, an English court judge ruled that it would be a risk to his psychological and physical health to come back, to allow him to come to the United States. So, I guess, and then after that, you have the Mexican president, who's known who's known more commonly by the abbreviation of, or the acronym of AMLO. The Mexican president offered asylum to him maybe a month ago, and so far Julian Assange is still in England. We'll see what happens, but he's still in the fight for his life 10 years later, and the United States is going to be relentless at pursuing Julian Assange, which is continues to horrify me, and much of the democratic world, all of our many of our allies, and what may be what may explain why this why is Australia allowing this? Why isn't Australia taking a harder line against why isn't Australia taking a harder line against this provocative move by the United States to attempt to prosecute a U.S. an Australian citizen? I'm pretty sure. I don't know all the legality of it, but I'm pretty sure that you can't. I'm pretty sure you can't be. You can't try a non-U.S. citizen in the United States, or at least traditionally, I thought you couldn't. Maybe I'm mistaken, but in principle, certainly, each citizen should be only able to be prosecuted within the country that they reside in, within the country that they within the country that they're citizens of. So I don't know exactly what happens if you commit a crime in another country, but in this case, Julian Assange didn't I don't think he committed this crime in the United States specifically. But anyway, so why I think this is happening has to do with, well, of course, as you all know, the United States is very closely allied with countries such as the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Of course, there's plenty of countries that are aren't primarily English speaking that we have alliances with. But in this situation, I want to talk to you about the Five Eyes, which the Five Eyes is it's an intelligence alliance that has existed in one way or another since 1941. This is an international agreement between the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. These five countries, referred to with the Five Eyes, and they collaborate through a variety of surveillance programs and intelligence agencies. This isn't a separate body of agents outside of the outside of national jurisdiction necessarily. I mean, we're still talking about, we've got FBI and CIA collaborating with like MI5 in England and other intelligence agencies in a variety of, in the other three countries of this alliance. And there's a variety of alliances here, but the core one, and the one that seems the strongest, is this Five Eyes, which again is the United States, England, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. So they cooperate and share information and share, spies collaborate and they're working together and I think that it's not inherently a bad thing. Intelligence is necessary. It's a necessary evil. I mean, spying on citizens is a government has to have intelligence on their citizens, and they have to have intelligence on other countries. Spying is part of the deal, especially if you want to be an empire, you have to be able to do that. And don't get me wrong, oppressing other countries is never a good thing, and oppressing your own citizens is never a good thing. And I would argue that almost all of whatever we could have done, whatever we're doing now, we could have done at a lesser capacity if the Patriot Act was never passed. The Patriot Act was passed 20 years ago, and this alliance has existed since 1941. Or at least it started in 1941 with England and the United States, and then was formally these five countries by 1955. So this intelligence alliance wouldn't be crippled without the Patriot Act. There's no rule that says that. Governments have been spying on their citizens as long as there have been governments and citizens, and they can do it just fine without the Patriot Act. So, advocating for the existence of an intelligence agency is not the same thing as, it's not the same thing as saying like, oh well, then you must be for the Patriot Act necessarily. You can have intelligence, but you still have to follow the Constitution. It's not complicated. But yeah, so I think that this collaboration, this intelligence alliance, I think is largely what it comes down to, and why Australia is keeping its mouth shut mostly, while one of its citizens, who has been, one of its citizens is held up in another country, that being England, where he's constantly being faced with, he's constantly in an endless court battle, seemingly. I don't know. Like, will Julian Assange ever be pardoned? Pamela Anderson made a good effort 2 weeks ago trying to convince Trump to pardon him with his final days. Trump listened but didn't do it, even though he claims to be in favor of free speech and a strong advocate of free speech more than other presidents. So, will Julian Assange ever be pardoned? Or I don't know. I honestly, sadly, I think it's more likely that I think it's more likely that he spends the rest of his life in prison to one capacity or another. I certainly don't see Joe Biden pardoning him. Obama pardoned Chelsea Manning, who was part of this operation, and I didn't even realize you could pardon a non-U.S. citizen as a U.S. president. But I guess if you can, but I suppose if you can charge a U.S. citizen with a non-U.S. citizen with a U.S. crime, then I suppose you can also pardon them. If you can charge them, I suppose you can pardon them. But I guess what I'm getting at is that we have an intelligence alliance that extends the boundaries of any one country, specifically countries within what you'd call the Anglosphere, countries directly influenced by England and the United States. I mean, obviously, the United States is the dominant partner, but the United Kingdom is kind of the United Kingdom. It would be, I guess you could say, they're kind of the middleman between the United States and the rest of these English-speaking countries that are part of this agreement. So, and I think I don't see Australia pushing, because if they wanted to push the U.S. on this issue, they've had 10 years to push. They haven't done it yet, and the U.S. isn't going to back down. I am not optimistic about a presidential pardon going forward. With Bernie Sanders out of the picture, what hope do we have of a leader who has the principles of human rights, who we think could do something like that? I just don't see it happening. There was a chance it could have happened with Trump, wild out in left field chance, but it didn't happen. So we'll see if Julian Assange gets asylum We'll see if Julian Assange finally gets asylum in Mexico, or what's going to happen there. But right now he's held up in England, and it's just been going on way too long, and I don't see any end in sight, unfortunately. But anyway, guys, thanks for your time.